Okay, welcome back to the channel. And tonight's episode, we are going to be showing you guys the workout footage from tonight, which would be arms and shoulders. And then we're actually going to be discussing being torn between two directions and which way to go. And hence the thumbnail. I know, clickbait. It's clickbait. But into the workout video. Okay, so the whole purpose of the thumbnail is to pretty much show the representation of being torn between what you're wanting to do. So on one side, you're holding on to, bulking. The other side, you're holding on to cutting. And I think a lot of people, they kind of get stuck somewhere in the middle. And I guess you could call that like main gaining, which is fine. I mean, I hate the phrase main gaining, but a lot of people use it. And hey, all props to everyone who uses it. But like the whole purpose of main gaining is to slowly maintain your body fat while gaining muscle and strength, which makes a lot of sense, super logical, and it's pretty much ideal. But I think if you're going to do something, I'm not the type of person to halfway do anything. I'm going to die for like full force. So I'm speaking on my personal behalf and not what other people should do. This is me thinking out loud, my own personal thoughts and my experience and what I've done. So me personally, if I'm going to cut, I'm going to cut. If I'm going to bulk, I'm going to bulk. Main gaining is great for a lot of people who are in a maintenance phase, who's already done their cut, who's already done their bulk, and then they just kind of want to maintain where they're at and still make progress. Because if you're going to the gym, you're still eating right, you're still dieting, you still want to see progress.
Mhm.
So main gaining to me is honestly just maintenance long term, while still trying to pursue like results, versus being like, okay, summer's coming, or I have a bodybuilding show, or a family reunion, or a high school reunion, or whatever the reason is for you to decide it's now time to cut, right? You can't really like, hey, I'm going to give myself 18 months to cut for this reunion. No, I'm going to give myself 12 weeks, 16 weeks, 20 weeks to do a legitimate hard cut, be hungry, and commit myself to this. Or I want to get bigger. Winter's here, or winter's coming up, or summer's coming up, whatever you decide, time of year, it's time to bulk. I want to get bigger, or I want to get stronger to go in that surplus and to start actually eating more calories and training and gearing it towards putting on size, because I just feel like it's too hard to be stuck in the middle. Because to me, honestly, it gets to the point for me that I don't see the results and I start to get discouraged. I'm not saying this is for everybody, but for me personally, if I'm on a maintenance phase and 6 months goes by and I don't gain or lose or see a significant difference in one way or the other, I get discouraged and I'll get bummed out. And it's just kind of like, I'm kind of like a clock, right? I'm always moving, but I'm never going anywhere. I'm never moving. I'm never going nowhere. Versus if you go in a legitimate bulk, you increase your calories by 250 over your maintenance, 500 over your maintenance per day. Then you can start seeing your weight go up by maybe half a pound, maybe a pound a week for 12 weeks. You gain a pound a week for 12 weeks. That's 12 pounds. That's not too far out the realm of being in shape. And then you can go on a 12-week cut. And then you can see if you could get down to a lower body fat percentage in the next 12 weeks cutting, and then have a like more same weight but at a leaner body mass.
Mhm.
So I think that seeing those type of results keeps me moving forward and keeps me on track, because it's like, okay, I'm putting on size, I'm putting on strength, I'm making progress, I'm losing body fat, I'm losing inches off my waist, I'm on track, I'm getting results. But if I'm just like, cool, I've lost like a fraction of an inch off of my waistline, and I've gained no size on my arms, my chest isn't any fuller, and I don't see any difference, and it's been 6 months because I've been main gaining slowly, and I put on, half a pound, maybe a pound, it just doesn't do it for me. It bums me out. I'm the type of person that I have to have a goal, a driven goal, a very specific goal, a very specific timeline, and I have to have a reason to get up to push forward through it. And hence why I like competing, why I competed in powerlifting, and why now I'm competing in bodybuilding. Because bodybuilding is going to keep me on a diet and keep me hungry, metaphorically and literally. It gives me a reason to be hungry and gives me a reason to have purpose to go to the gym to work out. I'm not saying everyone should have a hardcore purpose. People just like to lift weights because they like to lift weights. I'm more of a goal oriented, driven individual, and I like to have goals to set for myself to either try to shoot and maybe fall shy of, and then figure out why I didn't hit my goal, readjust my goal, go after it again, and this time hit it, or hit my goal or surpass my goal to set a new goal. Either way it goes, it's a goal that I'm trying to reach. Either I'm going to fall short, or I'm going to exceed it, or I'm going to hit it right on the head, and then I'm going to continue to proceed after that to go further and further and further. Versus like, yeah, I'm just kind of floating around here in space, holding on to my two planets of bulking or cutting, and I'm not sure which way I want to go. So I'm just going to float around here aimlessly for a while until finally I decide this is the direction I'm going to float in. It's never been my style. It's never been the type of mentality that I've ever had. And people that do have that mentality, great for them. You guys are awesome for being able to do that. And my hat's off to you. But me personally, I can't do that.
For me, like I've never really done like an actual like exercise oriented, like strength training oriented bulk phase. I've bulked in my life, but not
Mm-hmm.
in like any sort of good fashionable form. So like I've never really had to deal with that. Like every time I've gone into working out, I've always had a bit more like mindset and goal oriented kind of things of trying to better myself and like losing weight, getting more in shape, kind of outlooks on things. So like I've never really had the whole at up to this point like the whole like do I want to bulk or do I want to cut kind of thing. Like I've always been more of the cut person because like I said I've never been in shape enough to decide like you know what maybe put on a little bit more size in a good way
Mm-hmm.
would could be like kind of a little nice however it might be. So as of right now with my journey that I'm on like what I'm doing like I'm getting down little by little each day making progress and everything like that and I'm sure like I'm developing muscle in some form or fashion with what we're doing in the gym and everything with the workouts and the intensities and all the stuff and the diets and the like just all of it together
Mm-hmm.
but like I'm not really at a point yet where I can say like for sure like yeah I'm getting really good muscle densities or anything like that. I'm still well covered
So
at the
hold on,
moment.
I'm gonna kind of interrupt there for a second so I don't lose my train of thought. But you are every time you go to the gym and you lift weights, you are defining, developing, building density, mass. Well, density by definition is the how dense something is, like aluminum versus like carbon. Right, carbon's a lot more dense than aluminum. So like density is like a phrase that a lot of people use, but I get what they're saying when they say it. But anyway, so like developing the muscle definition and the size of it, you actually have bigger arms than I do and you have a lot of extra body fat, but you can tell like the other day when we did that you know comparison video, the podcast
Mm,
where we did our
yeah.
when we did our bicep flicks, you can tell your arms are massive compared to mine. And it's not just because you have a lot of extra body fat on your arms; you have big arms. So every time you work out, you are increasing your body mass, and you have enough body fat to fuel muscle growth right now while being in a deficit because how heavy you are. So you're going to be putting on muscle. And I've told this to everybody. Like, listen, you can either be a cardio bunny and you just do a whole bunch of cardio and eat like a rabbit, and then look like skinny fat when you lose all your weight, or you can work out, put muscle mass on, and build your body underneath all those layers of fat. And then whenever you get done dropping the body fat, now you have something to show for, which is going to keep you motivated to keep going. I've seen too many times people they want to jump on the treadmill or jump on the stairmaster or elliptical, eat like a rabbit, and do 2 hours of cardio a day, and they get done and they just look skinny fat. They still look sloppy. They have no muscle mass, and they just look loose and sloppy, and it's not a good look. I mean, hey, if your goal is just to lose weight to be healthy, let me be very clear. Good for you. 100% stick with it. Don't listen to me about that, and just stick to your goal and be happy and content and absolutely proud of your results. But I'm talking about people that are doing it for vanity reasons, for muscular reasons, show off reasons, like look at me reasons. I want to go dating and people notice me. I just want to look better overall whenever I'm naked. I want to compete. Those are the people I'm talking about. And then these people are also like, hey, I'm going to do all this cardio and I'm not going to work out and I'm going to get down first to get skinny and then I'm going to, like
Hmm.
look like crap. And now I'm going to have to try to remedy this by lifting weights because either women are scared to get bulky and they're scared to look manly, or guys are just, well, I don't want to look like the guys in the magazine, and it's just not going to happen and stuff like that. And then, so like I said, every time you step in the gym, every single time you are building muscle mass. So whenever you get your body fat down low enough, you're going to have a very impressive physique to show. Especially you have very wide clavicles and you have a thick barrel chest. So when you get your body fat down low enough, you're going to have a body that's worth like being proud of. Like especially for like someone who's been spending as much time and dedication as you have these last couple months, if you stick with it, the results will pay off. And the cut is going to be like worth it. And then by that time, you're already going to have a really good base built up. So you could be like, okay, Now let me see what I need to work on. Because right now you can't see what you need to work on because you have too much body fat. But once you get down low enough and you see what you've built underneath, you could be like, I could back off of this and this and put more emphasis and more, more attention onto this and this, then start building a more well-rounded, developed physique. And like I said, so you are, because if you weren't lifting weights, then I'll be like, yeah, no, one day you can focus on building muscle mass whenever you get to the point where you want to do that. But you have been doing that. So don't think that you're not building up because you are. I mean, you're getting stronger every single week, and you're putting on more size every single week while you're burning fat, and it's gonna manifest once you get your body fat down. You're gonna be like, aha, look at me.
Yeah,
So
I still got that winter fluffs year round.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, I keep my winter coat on.
yeah,
So, but yeah, like I said, when it does come to that phase where I'm looking at doing more of a traditional bulk, like it will be like you're saying, like you can't really halfway do both at the same time. It's just never really going to work out, I don't think.
Mhm.
Like there's like if you're trying to put on size and muscle and things like that, you can't really keep yourself in a deficit while trying to do that. And then if you're trying to cut back, you can't really keep yourself in a surplus and do that sort of thing. Like it's just like you can only do one or the other.
Mhm.
So trying to maintain both of them is, like I said, I think like an impossible task that somebody would be trying to do
Mhm.
in the long run, and just kind of discouraging themselves as they go about trying it,
Yeah.
sort of thing. I
Yep.
mean, like there might be some exceptions out there. I don't know.
Oh,
Like I said,
absolutely. There's
but
there's always an exception to the rule. There's always the exception to the rule. Right? There's always going to be someone out there that it doesn't apply to them. It just doesn't and stuff. So
so yeah, like I said, for me, like right now, I'm still like 100% focused on cutting down and getting to like a more comfortable weight size kind of number sort of thing, and then seeing where I'm at once I do hit that spot where I'm like, you know what, like this is good. I'm comfortable. I feel good with this. Now, do I want to continue trying to just reduce the body fat percentages or increase the muscle size sort of thing and make that choice? But whichever one I do, I'm going to have to go 100% in that direction
Mhm.
for myself. Because like I said, I like if I'm just maintaining and staying exactly where I'm at, like I'm not really getting the the work being put in, not showing any results. Like I don't feel, for me, like that it continuously allows you to feel like you need to put in that work.
Mhm.
Like you can start to kind of have that outlook of like, well, I can slack off a little bit because like I'm not really going anywhere. Like if I'm running in place or whatever, like why do I need to keep running, sort of thing.
Mhm.
So like if
it gets to the point where it's like, what's the point? If I'm putting all this effort in my diet, and cooking my food and eating it, being on schedule and going to the gym, being consistent, and I'm just consistently the same, and I'm not seeing any improvement, what is the point? Why am I even doing this? It becomes very discouraging, and not for everybody, but for me. Eventually, it'll come to the point in time in life where it's just like, okay, I just want to remain where I'm at and float in this area because I'm happy with where I'm at. And for those people that are already there, like this isn't really towards any of you guys, but I'm talking about people that want to get bigger, they want to get leaner, they want to be ripped, or they want to be massive, they want to be strong. These are the people that we're talking to right now. So everyone that's already like at your maintenance point, we're like, I'm 100% satisfied with my look and I want to be here. That's great. But who we're talking about right now is the people that are goal oriented to push forward. And they're like, I'm just going to maintain my way to a physique that's beyond obtainable in a time frame that I think it is for what I'm doing. Like I just don't think that it's very discouraging and you burn out when doing that.
yeah, like you're saying, like if you're at the level where you can maintain, like eventually, like that's what I would like to do at some point as well. And
Everybody.
everybody, like you want to get to that look of where like you see yourself and you're like, this is it, kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. And then once you get to that point, wherever it might be, in whatever way, shape, form, however that turns out, like you getting there and then going into like a maintaining kind of thing where you're doing like keeping everything kind of the same, like that is the work, keeping everything leveled out to maintain that exact look. Because if you start wavering off from there, then that's everything starts to like things start to change again, and you're like, wait a second, like I'm not wanting to, like kind of getting a little off the rails here. So that sort of maintaining is different. But if you're consistently doing the same exact things, but you're trying to do like a cut or a bulk, but you're doing like a maintenance phase, trying to do one of those, like that's not really like
Mhm.
workable to
Yeah.
me.
Well, and it comes down to, like I said, like there's people that work really hard to lose their body fat, and then it took them a very long time, and it was a very hard, difficult road. And then they're like, okay, now I want to put size on, and they're scared to start bulking because they're afraid to relapse to go back to being fat. And then you have the people that were super skinny and they fought really hard to get the size, and then they don't want to cut because they start feeling skinny or scrawny or worn out. That was my biggest thing for a while too, because I was powerlifting. I walked around at 270, 270, 265, 280, and just floated around there. I was always within 10 pounds plus or minus of my competition weight. So for me, when I started cutting weight and I get down below 250, I started feeling anorexic and skinny and weak. My numbers started going down. My power just dropped through the floor, and I just started feeling anorexic. I was swimming in all my clothes, I was wearing like 2 to 3X clothes, and everything was just loose on me. And I felt small. I didn't like the way it felt. Everything was losing size. And my mindset wasn't like, it's not muscle mass. If you're losing it, it's body fat. It's a lot harder to lose muscle mass than you think. So it's body fat. If you lose it in the process of cutting, you never really had it. It's just intramuscular fat or just exterior fat or water retention. So it's okay. My mindset was like, I'm losing size, so I'm losing strength, and I'm going to look weak. I'm going to be small, and I don't want to be small and weak because I was small and weak as a kid. I was always small and I was always weak. I didn't want to be small and weak no more. So that was my biggest hiccup, right? Was never wanting to go back to being small and weak. So I had the hardest time wanting to lose weight to get lean enough to be lean enough to start putting on quality size. Now, I'm not saying I didn't have some quality size, but I had too much fat, and the amount of dieting I had to do to get down to be lean enough, you're going to lose muscle mass with that. And when you're excessively overweight, right, you're going to, when you get to a certain point, you will start to metabolize some muscle mass. You can mitigate it and you can slow it down and help slow it by slowing down 1 to 2 pounds a week. If you're dropping 5, 6 pounds a week, you're going to lose a lot of muscle mass. But if you slow it down and take the long road, you're going to lose a lot less. You're going to preserve a lot more muscle mass. I never wanted to take that road because I always wanted all or nothing. And then I started feeling skinny. I'm like, not doing this. So I get where people get on a cut and they don't want to bulk, and people get on a bulk and they don't want to cut. Then they kind of just find themselves in limbo where they're just kind of like floating around, and they're never really making progress one way or the other. Because as soon as they start making progress in strength and size, they freak out. I'm getting fat, and they start cutting, and then they're like, I'm getting too small, and then it's teetering, right? So, like I said, maintaining, trying to maintain your body fat while putting on size and strength is absolutely doable 100%. But for me, it's not. I can't. I have to commit 100%. Like if I'm going to get lose fat, I'm going to get small. I'm going to get weak. I'm going to lose strength. I'm going to lose size. But you know what? That's okay because it's not going to be permanent. And I'm going to gain my strength back, and I'm going to gain my muscle mass back, and I'm going to look better than I did when I was fat. Or I'm going to get fat. I'm going to put some weight on. I'm going to get heavy. I'm going to lose all my definition, but that's okay because I'm going to get strong, and it's not going to be forever. And then whenever I go to lose that, I'm going to look even better, and I'm going to be heavier at a leaner body weight than what I was before. So that's the mindset that I approach things at. And for a while there, it was hard for me when I was powerlifting because I was always about strength and size. I always want to be big. I want to be strong. But now that I'm out of that, can't do that no more. Now this mindset comes into play and stuff. And it's just like, I'll also hear these people too. I want to talk about this for a little bit while the thought floated in there. People that say you want to get big, you got to eat big. I think that's like the worst advice ever. Like you hear it all the time. If you want to get big, you got to eat big. You got to get big, you got to eat big. You want to get big, you got to eat big. I think that's the worst advice ever. If you want to get big, you have to eat quality, and you have to eat your needs. Eating 12,000 calories a day, Taco Bell, McDonald's, Pizza Hut, Jack in the Box, that's not going to get you big and muscular. That's just going to get you fat, and it's going to make you look like crap, and you're going to look bad, and you're going to look horrible, and you're going to feel horrible. So you can eat big. Oh well, I mean chicken and rice and steak. You have to eat a lot of chicken and rice. I've gotten fat eating a lot of chicken and rice. I used to eat a ton of rice. I ate a rice cooker a day with a lot of pasta, rice, and chicken. And I put body fat on. I put a lot of it on. You can get fat on anything. You eat enough of it. You shovel it down and you choke it down. You can get fat on anything. So you got to eat big to get big. Worst advice ever. If you cannot metabolize 3,000 calories to maintain your size and be in a surplus of maybe 250 to 500 calories, and you're only metabolizing like 2,000, that other 3,000, 1,500, is metabolizing into fat. 3,500 calories to 1 pound of fat. So if you eat 1,000 calories over your daily needs, in 3.5 days, you have put on 1 pound of fat. In a week's time, you will put on 2 pounds of fat. In a month, you're going to put on 8 pounds of fat. Will your strength go up? Yeah, sure, absolutely. Will your clothes fit tighter? Sure. Are you going to look amazing? No. Are you going to feel great? Absolutely not. So the whole eat big to get big. No, you need to eat within your means, right? So whatever your calorie needs are and your demands. And some people respond great to high fat, low carbs. Some people respond great to high carbs, low fat. But we're all typically the same when it comes to protein. Some people can get away with less protein, maybe 0.7, zero point 0.8 grams per pound of body weight, especially when you're in a bulk. If you're in a bulk, you could do 0.7, 0.8 grams per pound of body weight, and then the rest of your calories can come from carbs and or fats, or even both if you want. And then if you're in a deficit, you're going to want your protein a little bit closer to 1 gram per pound of body weight, and you want your carbs and your energy sources a little bit lower. So that way you're burning more of your stored body fat than your muscle mass. And then the reason why I say fats or carbs is not a lot of people really talk about this, but your fat intake is responsible. Like cholesterol actually helps your body metabolizes cholesterol into testosterone, and it uses cholesterol for production of testosterone. So fat is a very powerful hormone boosting nutrients that you can get, essential fatty acids and stuff like that. Carbs is just a fuel. It's just energy. It's a fuel source. The problem with eating them together is when you eat carbs, it raises your blood sugar level. When your blood sugar level elevates, your pancreas has to release insulin. Pancreas either opens up the muscle cell or the fat tissue. So if the muscle cell has been worked and the glucose is depleted, it'll open up the muscle fiber and it'll shuttle the sugar out of the blood into the muscle. If the muscle is full and the muscle belly has no more room to absorb sugar, it's going to open up the fat cell and absorb it into the fat. The body's job, the pancreas, is to get blood sugar levels down as rapidly as possible so that the pancreas can stop working and releasing insulin. The longer your body releases, the longer your pancreas has to release insulin, and the longer your blood sugar levels are elevated, the more chances you have to become diabetic. Okay. So if your pancreas is always releasing insulin, your receptors are always absorbing insulin. Your receptors they'll get burnt out. They'll stop absorbing. You'll become insulin resistant, or your body doesn't really absorb insulin anymore. So it doesn't open up the tissue as much. So that means that your blood sugar levels stay elevated longer, and the pancreas has to continuously release insulin till it gets enough in there to get the sugar down. That's how you start becoming diabetic. When you eat fat with carbs, fat actually slows down the absorption of sugar. So it keeps it in your bloodstream longer, which keeps your blood sugar levels elevated longer, which keeps your body releasing insulin longer. So if you eat one or the other, it's better than eating them both on top of each other. If you look at the Eskimos had a very high fat protein diet, almost no cardiovascular disease at all until they got introduced to a Western style diet where you do fats, carbs, and proteins together. And you look at a lot of the Asian communities, they did a lot of fish with rice. They did a lot of protein, chicken, steak, and fowl with rice. High carb, very, very low fat foods. Almost no cardiovascular disease until they introduced a Western style diet, which is fats and carbs in almost every single meal. And what happens? It causes the blood sugar levels to stay elevated longer, which causes the pancreas to release insulin longer, which causes your blood sugar levels to stay elevated. Now, if you want a phenomenal, long lasting pump in the gym, then what I used to do is I would take whole milk because it has fats, carbs, and protein. And then I would take peanut butter and put it in there. And then I would take dextrose, which is just sugar. And I would put probably about 30, 40 grams of dextrose in there. Right? So you get your whole milk, you get your dextrose, and you get your peanut butter. What's in protein? That's all of it, right? That's sugar, fats, and carbs. And then what I would do is I would take my caffeine, whether it's tablets or coffee, and I would drink my coffee or my caffeine, which takes about 30 to 40 minutes to hit your system. And about 20, 30 minutes after that, I would drink that drink. I'll drink that within 10 minutes, 30 minutes. So 40 minutes, it's kicking in my system, right? Now, 30 minutes of caffeine's in there. 30 to 40 minutes, 30-minute mark, I drink my shake. And I'm in the gym within 45 minutes of taking my caffeine to hour. Now my body is releasing insulin and it's absorbing carbs and fats very slowly while I have amino acids in my blood the whole time I'm working out, right? Because it's all quick, rapid digestive stuff. But because the fats and the carbs, you'll have energy your whole workout. And this is great for bulking. If you want to bulk, this is great. But like I said, I wouldn't recommend eating that way every single meal because there's repercussions that come with it, right? And a lot of people don't really talk about that. And it's like, oh, we could just start taking insulin, and taking insulin actually gives your pancreas a break, and it actually helps your pancreas relax. But then the problem is you're still becoming insulin resistant because you always have elevated levels. And a good way to mitigate elevated levels is to go on 10-minute walks after you eat anything with carbs. Because if you go on a 10-minute walk right after you eat, it actually burns a lot of glucose up in the legs and the back and the abs from walking and moving for about 10 minutes. It gives the sugar somewhere to go, which brings the blood sugar level down, which helps you to become more insulin sensitive instead of resistance. So that's a lot of stuff people don't talk about. So when people say like, oh, you got to eat big to get big, just eat whatever you can eat. Well, when you're young, sure, you're invincible. Yeah. Go to town, eat your McDoubles and eat your Big Macs and your Mexican pizzas and eat your, Little Caesars and whatever else you want to eat. But to me personally, I think that's the absolute worst advice any age. You want to get big, eat big. No, that's not true. Now, hard gainers are like, well, I have a high metabolism and I can eat and eat and eat and eat and eat all day long and I won't gain anything. Like, well, you just haven't found your calorie maintenance level yet. Once you find it, everyone has one. Everybody has one. There's no anomaly out there where it's just like, I'm a bottomless pit and I can literally eat 50,000 calories a day. I could eat pure lard all day and peanut butter and I'll never gain a pound. That's not true. Everybody has a maintenance level. And once you find that maintenance level, you just go about 250 to 500 over that. Mm-hmm. And then you just rock that out for 12 weeks, 16 weeks. How much fat do you want to gain? I mean, when you're gaining fat, you're going to be gaining a little bit of muscle, but you're going to be gaining way more fat. You're gaining a pound a week. You're going to gain way more fat than you are muscle. Way more. Unless you're on the extra good. And if you're on the extra good and you're on all those extra calories, then that might be the exception. And you might be 1-to-1 or 0.5-to-1 ratio. Depends on if it's your first time, your second time, how much you're on, what you're taking, how committed you are. There's a lot that goes into that, right? But generally speaking, especially if you're natural, 1 pound of 1 pound of weight a week, you guarantee almost 97% of that is going to be fat. No one gains muscle that fast unless you're some type of Ronnie Coleman exception, and you're the exception. And here's the kicker: I try to encourage this to everybody. Nobody knows if you are that one until you try it. Nobody knows if you're going to respond to a bunch of volume until you do it, or a low volume until you do it, or high fats or high carbs or high protein. No one knows if you're the exception. The watching this might be the next Ronnie Coleman. You might be the next Jay Cutler. You might be the next C-Bum. You might be the next Brian Shaw or Eddie Hall. You don't know because you've never pushed your genetics to the limit to find out what you're actually truly capable of and what your cap is. And you won't know until you do. Then once you do, you're either going to be like, I'm right in the mold of the normal, or I'm below normal, which is very rare, unless you have like some type of birth defect normally and you have some type of handicap. Most people are like, I'm a hard gainer or I'm below average. No, you're just not dieting good. You're not training good. You're not sleeping good. You have bad habits and you haven't fixed them. And if you have fixed your habits and you are the exception and you're doing everything right and you're still not gaining, well, sorry about your luck, I guess. And then you have the people that are the elites, which are very rare. Like, I don't know the number, but how many people do you think try to become Mr. Olympia? How many guys do you think work out with the intention to become Mr. Olympia? And how many people do you think actually make it pro? And how many of those pros do you think make it to the Olympia stage? And how many of those guys actually make Mr. Olympia? Mm-hmm. So what, 1% of the population? Maybe 8 billion people on the planet? Maybe 1%, 2%? Actually try, if that, maybe 5%, maybe 0.5%. Out of 8 billion people, how many people are training to become Mr. Olympia and pushing their genetics to the absolute most they can actually possibly like physically and emotionally handle to become Mr. Olympia? How many? Hardly any. Hardly any. So to sit there and go, oh man, it's 1 out of 10 billion. 1 out of a billion, 1 out of 5 billion, whatever the absurd number that they're saying is. Well, how do you know? Because I guarantee you, there's not 3 billion people on the planet training to be Mr. Olympia right now.
Mhm.
There's very few. So to say, oh, well, the norm, okay, but is the norm actually really trying? Or are they just going to the gym and hanging out with their bros and then going home and eating whatever with dinner? So, like I said, you don't know until you try, and you won't know your true potential, your true genetics until you give it 100%. Like I know my genetics are brittle, and I know that I can break stuff easily and snap things just from simply standing up wrong, right? Because that's just the luck of the draw, years of abuse. So like I said, I think that there's good advice, there's bad advice, and then there's great advice. And like I said, I think eat big to get big is horrible advice. Eat for your needs is great advice, and then eat what fits your actual goals is the perfect, absolute perfect advice, depending on what your goals are. Whether it's maintenance or cutting or losing and stuff. So,
Yeah, I got you. All makes sense
mm-hmm.
when you look at it.
Yeah. So
Lots of info.
yeah. Like I said, a lot of ranting and stuff like that. So that's just my personal look, and this is all my personal feeling, and a lot of it's personal, all of it's factional. I've been doing this a long time. Like I'm 36, I'm 14. I know I don't look it, but I power lift for 10 years, and I used to body. I never competed in bodybuilding, but I used to bodybuild before I got into powerlifting. And I was into bodybuilding from the age of 14 to around 23, 24. So I started getting into powerlifting real heavy. And I competed in powerlifting and worked out for that until I hurt my pec, which is about 10 years. And then I followed all of it and, knew a lot of gym bros and hung out with a lot of competitors, like, stuff like that. So like, and then the magazines, the research, the studies, the informations, the double blind studies, and all the information out there. It doesn't take a scientist to pick up a phone. I would say a book now, but pick up a phone and look up a topic, search, and then read it and be like, and educate yourself. It's not difficult to do that now and stuff like that. So just like now, there's a new study out saying that like 52 sets is the optimal amount for growth. In some studies, like there's one study they did, everyone could squat around 315 pounds, for reps. So everybody was typically trained the same. They did one group that did 22 sets, stuck at 22 sets, and the other group they worked their way up over the weeks, 12 weeks, to a total of 32 sets, 37 sets, I think, 37 or 52. I know the study was 52 sets, is what they said, but they worked their way up to, and they weren't doing 52 sets in a workout. That was total for the week, is what they worked up to towards the end of the 12 weeks. And they said they saw a significant increase. And they predominantly trained the legs. And they saw the growth in the hypertrophy. And the hypertrophy in the group that was doing way more sets and volume got way more response and more hypertrophy than the group that was doing 22 sets. And there were more protein synthesis, and there was more, so there's all kinds of studies always being done. And then what is science? I tell everyone this. It's like, oh, you're not a scientist. Well, what is science? It's performing a study, right? A thesis. You get a thesis. I think if I pick something up and drop it, it'll fall. And you let it go. The thesis of gravity, right? If I drop something, it's going to fall. And now if I could replicate that thesis that I did, that thought, over and over again, and get continuous results of the same thing repetitively, that is a successful science study. I proved that if I drop something right here and let it go, it's going to hit the table every single time over the course of X amount of times. It's been identical. I was able to replicate those results over and over. That's a science experiment. That's a scientific study. Anyone could do a scientific study. You could take your kids in the backyard, get some dirt, and hey, if we put water in this dirt, will it turn to mud? Let's find out. What if we let it sit for a couple of days? Will it dry back out? And you can do it over and over and over again. Guess what? That's a thesis for scientific experiments that you can perform and replicate the outcome over and over and over and over again to prove the point that if you put water to dirt, it turns to mud. You let it sit, it turns back to dirt, right? So when people say like, oh, well, how do you know? It doesn't work that way. Well, there's science being done in the gym. That's why it's called bro science, because they've always been ahead of the studies. Back in the day, they were taking whey protein powder before they even knew what whey protein was. It's derivative from milk. It's the liquid waste that comes off from making cheese. When they curdled the cheese, they took that water waste that was left over and they were discarding it. And one day someone came up and said, what is this? Let's test it. And it had all the amino acids and protein. And they're like, we could use this. So then they figured out a way to dehydrate it into a powder and they make protein powders, and that's where protein powder came from, right?
Mhm.
So it's science is always being developed and always being, so whenever they're like, oh well there's no proof to that's beneficial to take, and then they come out years later, protein powders work. Well, yeah, they've been taking them for years. Creatine doesn't work. That's just some crazy bro. It works. Arginine doesn't work. Studies come out. It works. Why? Because some bodybuilder got an idea. I'm going to take this and see what it does consecutively. And I'm going to take all my bro friends. Hey, try this. See if it works. And they start taking it. Then they all start seeing similar results. Then they tell all their gym bros and their gym bros and their gym bros. And the next thing you know, everyone's taking it. And the science is going, there's no scientific study to say that this works. How do you know it works? Because I've been taking it. I've been doing it. My friends have been taking it. They've been doing it. And it's all been working. No. Because me in a white love coat said it didn't work yet because I haven't had a chance to experiment with it to say it has or hasn't. Then they do it. Then they're like, oh, dieting. Oh, six small meals a day is better than 3 massively large, overly consumed meals a day. 15, 20 years later, then they come out and say like, oh yeah, eating smaller meals throughout the day is better, scientifically proven. They've been doing that since the 60s. Yeah, no kidding, right? No kidding. Now here it is like 1995, 2000. Now they're coming out like Dr. Oz or whatever year he comes, oh, eating 6 small meals is the way to do it. Scientifically proven. Yeah, since the 60s. How many times does someone have to do something repetitively before it gets recognized as something official, right? So I just think it's silly whenever people say like, oh, well, you're not a scientist, you don't know, you don't have a PhD. Well, do you have 2 eyes, 2 hands, and 2 feet? Can you read? Can you perform an experiment on yourself to find out? Every time you go to the gym, you're doing a scientific study. Every time you do a curl, oh look, got bigger. Let me see if I can replicate that over and over and over and over again. So, but anyways, that's the tangent. I'm getting on a rabbit hole. I'm done with this one, man. I think that's gonna be it for me on this one, man. Because I can keep going. I'm done.
Alrighty, sir.
Is there anything else you want to add?
No, I'm good for tonight.
All right. I'm done. We're at 37 minutes. So
got him on his roll.
Yeah, got me ranting and stuff like that. I get on my rant. So, well, that's going to be it for the video, guys. Thank you for watching and stopping and checking us out. We do have new mics on the way. I don't know how this audio is going to come out to sound because these Bluetooth mics don't really pick up that great, but we do have new mics coming. They will be here tomorrow, which will be on Thursday's video when they actually get released with that audio. So thank you for watching. If you made it this far in the video, if you were entertained, even just a little bit, if you guys could leave a like, we'd really appreciate it. And if you guys haven't subscribed yet and you'd like to subscribe, we'd also appreciate that too. And if you don't want to do either one, that's as simple as don't do it. We understand. But all the same, until tomorrow, we'll see you next time.
Later.